folks, well, we're just driving through some forest roads right now, just trying to find a place where we want to set up a base camp. We are going to be tent camping in this episode with the old Ford, so it's going to be kind of nice. We'll be able to set up a nice camp and then be able to move around with the Ford a little bit to do other things. Now, as it is, it's pretty foggy up here, not a lot of visibility. Not much in the way of views. It does look like there's a few areas here and there where the sun is trying to break through, so maybe by this afternoon we'll have clearer skies. All right, folks, well, I think I found a spot that would be awesome if I was in the van tonight, but seeing that we're going to be in a tent, I feel like this spot is just too open, and if the wind was to kick up, it could be a real miserable night. But I am going to mark the spot because it would definitely be awesome to camp here in the van. All right, guys, well, I just had to stop and share this with you. It is too spectacular not to just show you guys. So as you can see, the sun is out. We've actually gotten above the fog bank. You can still see the fog below us. But man, look at this absolutely stellar view from this spot. Now, I still haven't found a place to camp. I'm just kind of a little pull off here, but man, I just had to stop and show you this. This is just too spectacular not to just share this with you right now. I'm really hoping that I can kind of continue on some of these roads and maybe we can find a spot that will allow me to enjoy this view for the rest of the afternoon, because it's, with the fog down below and the sun out in the blue skies, absolutely stunning, stunning. All right, folks, well, I'm in another camp spot that I've been to many times before, and I had high hopes that this spot would actually work out, that in the way of we'd be high enough that we'd be above that cloud layer and we'd be broken out into the sun. And after seeing that earlier today, that just became my drive, because I was just thinking to myself, like, how incredible the sunset was going to be if we could watch the sun drop down and have that lower cloud layer. But this spot here, even though it's high on the ridge, it's right on the top of the ridge, it is still not apparently high enough, or either that or the cloud layer has moved up since we last saw it earlier today, because that was like literally probably like 2 hours ago now. As it is, I was thinking about just going ahead and camping here, but I do know that this spot can be somewhat popular, and being that it's going to be the weekend tomorrow, it could be a bit of a revolving door, and I do want to be able to leave camp with the truck and go do some other exploring. So leaving the whole tent and setup unattended in a spot that I feel like could be a revolving door just doesn't sit well with me, especially considering the fact that I can tell that in one camp spot, looks like somebody's already been here and they, were just here recently, and then in the other camp spot, I don't know what happened there, but it looks like somebody broke out a window. So I think we're just going to keep moving on and see if we can find another spot. This is definitely the downside of having the Ford with me on this trip versus the van, because I'm getting kind of tired and I would like to just like settle for the evening. And even though this spot's not great, if I had the van, I'd just park. I wouldn't set anything up. And in the morning, I'd just get up, have some coffee, and roll out. Be no big deal. But because I have a whole camp setup that I have to set up, I don't really want to go through the process of setting that all up to just have to get up in the morning and tear it all down. So we're going to keep moving along. All right, folks. Well, I think I finally settled on a location, and if I'm being perfectly honest with you, this is the very first place I looked at today, and I liked the location, but I just felt like it was early in the day, and it was worth looking around and seeing if I could find something I liked better. It is getting late. I'm not going to mess around too much tonight. I've got a lot to set up. We can kind of go over a lot of the tent setup and that kind of stuff later. I think tonight I'm just going to try to get everything set so that way I can get some food in me and get a good night's sleep. So I think I'll just catch you guys up in the morning. Well, good morning, folks. We're trying to get up and moving this morning, but admittedly, since it's just as foggy as yesterday and so warm and comfortable inside the tent, it's hard to get motivated this morning. Got everything set up last night. Fairly easy setup. It was only the second time I'd set the tent up, so I did fumble on a few things here and there, but overall, I think with a couple more attempts at it, I think I can pretty well knock this out in a few minutes, getting everything set up, even including the stove and all that. There was also a little bit of figuring because this is the first time that I had all of my gear in here, so there was a little bit of messing around with that. But like I said, all in all, pretty simple setup. So I did like that. That made things a lot nicer. Got the fire going last night, and that got things warmed up real quick. And then after that, I made a big bowl of Dinty Moore soup, and I added some extra beef to it to make it extra hearty. The stove cooked it up just fine. I did find that having the stove in here, the way I had it, was a little bit cumbersome for cooking as far as the way I'm set up with the hammock and everything, because the stovepipe was directly in my way, and I found myself awkwardly trying to get around to the cooking part of the stove. So I decided this morning that when I got up, before I started the fire again, I went ahead and flipped the stove around so that way the cooking section is a little bit easier to access. Made coffee this morning. That was easy. Just get the firebox good and hot, get a good flame going on in there, and it actually boiled up the water pretty quick, and then we just made some cowboy coffee, and then like I said, we've just kind of been relaxing and enjoying this quiet morning. We do have some chores to do today, because yesterday I was going to do all those chores and I didn't, because we dinked around driving all over Hell's Acre yesterday instead. So I do want to get out, get some firewood stacked in. There's a couple other little camp chores that I want to do just to make the overall camp a little bit more convenient. But I think it'll be fun. We just have to we just have to get away from this warm fire and this hot cup of coffee long enough to go get those things done. All right, guys, well, we got out, got the wood that we needed for camp. There should be enough wood to get us through the rest of this camp. We got a couple different types of wood. We've got some juniper, that was what we first cut there, and it's nice and dry, and that's gonna be perfect for the wood stove inside the tent. And the reason why I want juniper is out of the options that we basically have up here, which is juniper, pine, and fir, it's gonna burn the cleanest out of those. Now I did buy, or not buy, picked up a bunch of pine that was on the side of the road. It was a tree that was fallen. It was partly in the road and people were driving around it. So went ahead and cut all that up, and we'll just use it for firewood for the campfire tonight. And that will be fine for that, but I don't really want to burn that in the camp stove. Anyhow, we need to get it all out. We just basically got it in lengths. I'm going to cut her down to size for the wood stove. It's got a 12-inch firebox. I find about a 10-inch piece fits nicely inside. So we'll cut those down to that, and then we'll cut some bigger pieces for the campfire. Well, we've made it to another morning, barely. Got pretty windy last night, and yeah, not much sleep last night. Reminded me why I live in a van and not in a tent. The tent did fine as far as structural wise. I mean, I didn't have any concerns that that the tent was going to blow over or have any issues there. Took some pretty good gusts, but just the flapping of the fabric, you just hear that fabric Oh, so anyways, yeah, kind of jumping ahead here, aren't we, a little bit? Yesterday we got done with wood. Buddy of mine ended up showing up with his dog, and we went and walked some trails and looked for some grouse. It's grouse season, and but it was just raining, pretty much raining the whole time, and we didn't see any, and we pretty much came back here wet. And it was nice to be able to come into the tent, get the fire stoked up good, and hang some clothes up and dry everything out. So I definitely like the wood burning stove, and I look forward to installing the one I got in my van. So that's going to be really nice when we really hit the dead of winter. Speaking of winter, it's trying to be a little bit winter outside. We got just a little bit of snow going on out there, just a tiny skiff, not much of anything, and it almost sounds more like ice than snow. It's very pellety, but it does look like it's almost covering the ground, but not quite. As is right now, it's going to be a slow morning, I think. We're just going to have some coffee, we're going to relax, try to wake up. Well, it took a couple of days, but it looks like we finally get to enjoy a nice view and a hot cup of coffee like I had hoped when we set up camp the other night. Still a little bit breezy right now, but the wind is far more subdued than it was last night, and it's actually pretty peaceful, and it's pretty cool to watch. The kind of clouds, it's almost like watching a time lapse right now, except for it's just real time. It's nice just to be able to look and see. To be honest, that fog was starting to wear on me a little bit, and the rain and just the being damp and wet. I'd much rather be cold and crisp like it is now. It's much nicer. Turns out it's just a good day to be outside.